this is what often happens with planets. It's like they move into a new archetype. They are in this archetype for a few months and then they retrograde back. And it is kind of this like we're being again introduced to a new theme in our lives. And then we go back first and fully digest the old theme, and then
Yeah,
we fully move
fully
into the new.
integrated. Yeah, that makes sense.
This
Yeah.
is also what is happening right now with Chiron, who just moved into Taurus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sync and Flow, the podcast. I am so excited to have you here joining us today for this juicy conversation with the beautiful Lola. Welcome, Lola.
Hey.
And we are going to be exploring astrology and divine feminine, dark feminine energies, and really what's happening in the world right now. We are recording this on Wednesday, the 12th of August, which is the new moon eclipse, solar eclipse in Leo, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel really grateful and excited that we're recording this on such like a astrologically, cosmically charged day. So welcome to Sync and Flow, the podcast, my love. I'm very happy to have you here.
Hi, I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And maybe you just want to give the audience a little overview of like who you are and where your passion for astrology comes from and how you weave that into the work you do in the world today.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lola Elunara, and astrology came into my life really just from one moment to another. Just a friend showed me my natal chart, and I remember like reading through my birth chart, and I was just shocked because I've never felt so seen. And there were ways that described how I am that I could have never even put into words. And like from that moment on, I just became obsessed. And like literally on the day, I was like, oh my God, I want to learn everything about astrology. And that's what happened. Like I just nonstop started reading about everything and like reading all the charts of my friends, learning about all the aspects and planets and houses. And eventually I said I want to study this. And so I looked for schools online and found like an evolutionary astrology school. So evolutionary astrology is different in the sense that it like focuses more on the energetic patterns in your chart and like looking more to see, okay, is also also seeing the soul comes from and where it wants to move to instead of seeing it like a cookbook and saying, oh, you are this, you are that. So it's a little bit more karmically intelligent. And in my personal research, also the type of astrology that often has the most depth. And yeah, so I then went on and studied astrology actually for 5 years. My
Wow.
teacher had a therapeutic evolutionary astrology school. So the last 2 years were more about therapeutically like speaking to the client and working with like certain patterns in our life and how to ask the right questions. So the last 2 years were less focused on astrology. But yeah, I finished this now 2 years ago. And at the same time, I also studied. Yeah, go for it.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I went on and also like no, at the same time when I studied astrology, I also studied cinematography in Berlin. So I did both of these things at the same time, and it couldn't have been more like day and night because when I worked in film, I was working mainly in camera or lighting, and it was just full on in my masculine energy, carrying heavy things. And then on the other hand, I would be giving readings, which is just like super my feminine. And like for a long time, it felt like I live in two different worlds and I have to split myself. And for a time, I really enjoyed that. But eventually I realized, okay, no, from like my knowledge of my own chart, I knew, okay, this is not my path. And I just stumbled on a way to combine both of these worlds. And now I like to say that I do evolutionary photography. And I really like combine my astrological astrological knowledge with images and archetypal embodiment. And this is now where like my passion lies.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I love how you've like woven these two worlds together. I feel like there's something in your chart that probably like says like why you enjoy to do that as well. And I feel like astrology is the language of the archetypal and like of the soul and of really these things that are so beyond language. And it's like us as humans have tried to condensify this grand cosmic chessboard into words and concepts. And I feel like that's why that is the beauty of evolutionary astrology, is that it's like it's forever in motion and it's forever in this evolutionary process of like there's no end, there's no beginning, it just is, and it's continuing on in this beautiful spiralic explosion or exploration of consciousness. So yeah, I'm really excited to have you here today. You're the first astrologer I've had on the podcast, so I'm really excited for today's conversation. And I also am like astrology obsessed. Also been like studying astrology for like the last 5, 6, 7 years now. So I feel like I feel like we're at a really good level to go deep with this and to talk, because I also dive deep with my own chart. And I remember you brought something to my attention in an Instagram post about my charts a couple months ago that just like blew my mind, and I'd never heard this explained to me in this way. So I'm really excited to see how we go and where we talk about what we talk about. Maybe we can just start talking about like what the fuck is an eclipse? What does this mean for the soul? What does this mean for the charts? What happens for people that are born on eclipses? What does that mean? And where are we in terms of like 12th of August 2026? What is happening for the collective? I would love to just hear your channeling and your perception on what you've been noticing in the collective the last couple months and years as well.
Wow, so many questions. I would say I'm gonna start with just speaking about this eclipse today.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Because it's the first eclipse in the archetype of Leo. And so eclipses are these like very pivotal moments in our collective evolution. And I always like to say like these are moments where we can timeline jump. There's the potential for a different timeline. First eclipse in the archetype of Leo happens today. And eclipses are times where we can timeline jump and it's like a new portal opens and like our life just takes these drastic turns. Eclipses also have been really feared in the past. There are like I remember reading an article years ago where it said that this is also the time where the most accidents happen, the most divorces happen, the most people are being murdered, because it's often our emotions are just like really, really heightened.
Yeah.
We have just recently entered a new axis of the lunar nodes. So we moved from the south node being in Virgo and the north node being in Pisces to the north node being in Aquarius and the south node being in Leo. And this now is the first eclipse in the archetype of Leo, which means, so the first eclipse in any archetype introduces a new theme into our life. Get to kind of see the first like preview of what the next 1.5 years will be about for us. So it's always really important with the nodes of the moon to see, okay, what two houses do these two archetypes occupy in my own chart? And to understand, okay, like where am I being asked to let go of certain patterns? And where do I have to, lean into a new territory, change my ways? And so right now, today, we have a solar eclipse in Leo, which means that the moon will move in front of the sun. And the sun, our life force, will be momentarily cut off from who we are. We can like kind of see it like falling into the underworld, because our usual sense of self, how we understand ourselves, it's like momentarily falls away. With any transit, there's a build up. So it isn't necessarily always just happening on the day. It's also before the transit and after the transit. It really depends on who we are and what aspect are like activated in the chart. And so right now, this moment is really about seeing where have we created a false sense of identity, because the shadow of Leo is to look too much to the outside and to basically see, okay, how are we being received at? And how can I do what I'm being celebrated for, admired for? And it happens so naturally. And so this period right now collectively is really to see, where are we too identified with a certain persona which actually doesn't serve us, which just is actually too loud or too silent, too like sad. It really shows the addiction of our ego. And it can
And
be like,
external validation. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. External validation, but also like to a sense of always being like the victim, to a sense of always feeling comfortable that everything is doomed or sad. So whatever our ego kind of sees as comfortable and is known can also be an addiction to intensity. This is like for each of us individually, the journey now to like see, okay, what is my addiction? What is my default pattern that I fall back into? Because the North Node in Aquarius wants us to connect us to our actual authentic power.
Yeah, and as Aquarius rising, I really, really resonate with that North Node. So for those of you listening who don't know, the South Node and North Node are nodes, axes of the moon. They're not actual points. They're more like mathematical, astrological points. And the South Node is always connected to like past karma that we're integrating from past life and also our past selves. And the North Node indicating kind of like our soul's purpose and what we're moving towards and like our future self-actualization that we are meant to embody in this lifetime. So that's just a quick little astrology FYI. But I really feel that like it's really, we're moving away from this hyper independence of like me to this collective connection of it's us, right? There's no I in team, guys. Like we need to start thinking about, you know, how our actions impact others and how like, you know, one person's actions could have ripple effects across the entire world, you know, and this understanding of like there's so much power in collective teamwork. And I think that's also really being highlighted right now by this access, by this eclipse as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for explaining. I sometimes, you know, jump over these things, forgetting to
That's okay.
explain the details.
Because we pro.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so what I really personally feel is that a really important key of the North Node is that also that we have to learn that often intention matters more than reception. So I feel like over the past years politically, there have been certain movements where it's like, oh, if you do X, Y, Z, you're a horrible person and you're being canceled. I think that's, you know, the South Node in Leo, it's like, oh, I'm feeling hurt. My ego is hurt. So you have to change your ways and you are a
Yes.
horrible human being. And I feel like what we're now learning is to say like, hey, look, this hurt me. I don't want you to say this or to behave this way, but not to fall into the trap of polarity and then make
And
the other
blame.
wrong.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's really powerful.
Yeah, and I think it will be, you know, a loud, really, really loud and dramatic 1.5 years collectively because our egos need a lot of pressure in order to release our personas and identities.
Mm.
And we have to learn to how to surrender and how to really die into our true self. And it doesn't happen easily.
No, no, the ego has such an intense hold on our minds. And even me, like someone who's done a lot of psychedelics, a lot of work on my ego and identity. Like yesterday, I was also like dissolving this ego pattern, and I could just like see how justified my ego felt in clinging to this one pattern. And it's like, no, but I am justified justified, no, but I am validated, no, but. And then like I was working through this with my friend, my housemate, and he was like, no, but that's not like how we're gonna move forward. Like violence doesn't justify violence, ego doesn't justify ego, like unconsciousness doesn't justify unconsciousness, you know? It's like it comes to the point where like we do have to put our pride, Leo, aside and integrate what's best for the situation and the collective as a whole, Aquarius, which is like truly, yeah, like sometimes you do need to be the bigger person and you do need to be the one to like put your ego aside and step up or say sorry first or apologize or be the one to respond differently, even if you were getting provoked and reactive and blah, blah, blah. It's like, how can I take that in? And it's again, this like fire energy of the reaction, which also feels very connected to this Leo energy. And that comes from like a positive of like being really go-getter, but then there's also a negative of being really reactive, right? And so it's like, how can we internalize our own feelings and take responsibility at such a deep level and then choose how we respond for the betterment of humanity and the collective consciousness, whether that collective is like a household or a family or it's like the entire fucking planet, right? And so it's like someone has to go first. Someone has to choose the higher timeline first. And we can't keep playing out these like victim roles and like poor me and like, you know, blaming other people. And we have to start looking inside and taking really deep responsibility for our own patterning and asking ourselves, how am I contributing to the manifestation of this experience in my life, even if I'm not consciously asking for it or seeking it out, you know, because ultimately at the end of the day, everything that we manifest is based on our subconscious belief systems and what's happening inside. And so there is a part of us, what part of me is allowing myself to get disrespected? What part of me is allowing my boundaries to get crossed? What part of me is allowing X, Y, and Z to happen to me, even if it's a negative thing that's perceived from the external? Like there is a part that we all have to play and take responsibility for. And that, I guess, this collective consciousness that we're moving in from, away from hyper-independence to this understanding of like, we're all in this together, guys. Like we all have to shovel our shit together.
Absolutely. I love, yeah, beautifully said.
Yeah, wow. It really feels like we're such like at a crux in the timeline of planet Earth right now, and we're all kind of like waking up and realizing like, wait, what the fuck is going on? Like what has been going on? Like the astrology the last 2 years has been absolutely mental. Like we've had all the big boys change signs, Uranus, Gemini, like Saturn, like oh my god, like so much is going on. Chiron, like maybe you just want to give us a little bit of like an overview of like what's been happening, what is happening, and what kind of still to come, if that's possible.
Absolutely. So we had the past 2 years, so many outer planets change signs.
Yeah.
We had astrological configurations that haven't happened ever on this planet before in this way.
Wow.
So I think overall, of course, as above, so below, the
Yeah.
astrology just reflects this change in our consciousness. And we've been speaking about, you know, humanity waking up for hundreds of years. And like this is the moment. This is what we've all been speaking about. And just one last thing that I want to say about this eclipse axis is that this is also being really reflected right now in this nodal shift, because the North Node in early 2020 is gonna join with Pluto. And so
2030?
no, 2028. Let me look what the
Oh, 2028. It's gonna
look.
join Pluto in Aquarius. Wow, that's fucked. That's so fucked.
Let me see. North Node conjunct. When it is exact. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's November 16 in 2027. So not early 2028, the end of 2027. And I don't know if I would say it's fucked. I think it's actually amazing because it is, you know, like this.
I mean, just like fucked as an intense energy. Like it's just intense transformational energy.
Intense transformation. And that's why I say, you know, like nothing will be the same after this date, because Pluto is just gonna, I often say like Pluto, you can see him as a vulture. So he eats everything that is dead and that needs to be removed.
I love that.
And it's basically, this will just like kind of eat up everything that is sick within our society and like drag us down into the underworld. And it is likely to be collectively a time where fear will be way more present. We will have like maybe a financial collapse, or it's hard to, I'm not a big fan of like predicting very specific things
Yeah,
because
yeah,
who knows how it will
yeah,
manifest. But what we
yeah.
can see is, okay, there will be a before and an after of this transit. So
Wow.
also, 2027 has been predicted as the year of the new humanity, new
The
Earth
shift,
starting.
yeah.
And so we're really deep in this. And I think also we have
It's so
next.
exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. I think, I often say, like, as much as we say, like, oh my God, why is all of this happening? All of our souls chose to be here
And
right
it's happening
now.
for us, not to us.
Exactly. And I think, we were,
Yeah.
before we incarnated, we were all like sitting up there being horny to incarnate right here, right
Yes.
now.
Literally, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like fighting. Like, who doesn't want to be on Earth right now to
Yeah,
experience?
literally. I so agree.
I
And some of
sometimes
us
like,
are like me, who came in with a Pluto square moon in the eighth house. It's like, give me the hard level. Give me the hardest level
exactly.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we are here to evolve fast. Like, this is why
Yeah.
I think planet Earth is like so much fun because we can experience everything in the physical and we can like learn and grow so fast.
Yeah, totally, totally. With that integration of the higher awareness, and that's why we can grow fast. If we're
Yeah,
too stuck in the 3D, then things go too slow. But now things are actually speeding up in the 3D as well. And it's like manifestations are really instant these days. I don't know if you feel that way, but everything is speeding up. Like time, I don't even know what time is anymore. And probably like Saturn is something to do with that as well. And Saturn and Aries, like that makes sense. Time speeding up, like.
well, I think this is really interesting for me because I would actually also connect it really to the North Node now being in Aquarius, like Aquarius
Mm,
being connected to like the akashic field and higher timelines, different
wow.
dimensions. And it's more like our sense of time. It's like we're moving away from the linear. And it is different for everyone because I've heard so many people saying, oh my God, time is slowing down. And I met so many people saying, like, whoa, time is moving slower again. I feel like the days has more hours. And then there's others that are saying, no, wait, no, it's moving way faster.
Yeah.
So I think what is happening more, it's like a collapse of linear time.
Yes.
And we are experiencing more and more how like our awareness is what stretches and slows down time and how
Yes,
present
for
we are, what we
sure.
do in the day, how we think of the future, how we think of the past. All of this influences our sense of time.
For sure, for sure. And really the ability of like the higher mind, I really see Aquarius linked to this like higher mind energy and like this understanding that like our mental space dictates our reality and like we can literally use our thoughts to change our reality even in an
Okay.
instant. And so it's like this much more commanding over our reality and us being the creators of our everyday life. And like, baby, if you want to change something, like fucking change it. You have that power. Like, stop thinking that it's something external that needs to change it for you. You need to go out and fucking grab life.
Absolutely, yes. So to me, like Aquarius, like I said, it is really the Akashic records. It is the nervous system of the earth, and it connects also to each of
Wow.
our nervous systems.
Wow.
So that is why, like Aquarius, like also as we move through this change, a lot of old memories are being washed up that are stuck in the nervous system, that
Mm,
are from past lives, that are from ancestral lines. Like all of this has to be washed up in order
mm,
for us to actually like anchor a higher frequency. And I think this is exactly what we've all been feeling and moving through
yeah.
collectively. And the astrology just backs this up. It's like everything is just being washed up and we just have to look at our shit.
Yeah, and Pluto is telling us to do that at such a deep level. When did Pluto move into Aquarius? It was like a year ago or so? About, no, like 6 months ago or something.
No, Pluto moved into Aquarius. I have to look the exact day, but I think 2022. Wait.
24, November 24. Interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
November 2024. We already had like a brief dip of Pluto into Aquarius a little bit earlier. And then like this is what often happens with planets. It's like they move into a new archetype. They are in this archetype for a few months and then they retrograde back. And it is kind of this like we're being again introduced to a new theme in our lives.
Mm, mm.
And then we go back first and fully digest the old theme, and then
Yeah.
we fully move
Fully
into the new.
integrated. Yeah, that makes sense.
This
Yeah.
is also what is happening right now with Chiron, who just moved into Taurus and is already on its way out of it again and is gonna fully move into Taurus next February. And this also really like Chiron and Taurus, it's gonna be so deep because Taurus is the body.
The body,
It's
yeah.
the divine feminine, and just also our relationship we have with ourselves and
Mm.
with our body. And because of that, it also reflects the relationship we have to Mother Earth.
Mm.
And so the next 8 years of Chiron being in Taurus will really be about to observe, okay, how do we treat ourselves? How do we treat our bodies? Do we constantly push? Do we not push it enough? Like physical health will become more of a concern for many of us. And I've been already, it's always so fascinating to observe this in the collective because I think it was like 2 weeks before Chiron moved into Taurus. I saw 4 people on my Instagram feed who stopped eating sugar and who started working out again. And everyone was suddenly speaking about their body. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, ah, this is, you can't make it up. You just like, if you know it and you look around, you just see it everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes so obvious once you're tapped into these different layers because you start to see the layers play out in real time. And it's just so fascinating. Like, how could you not be an astrology nerd? So I really love that. I really, really love that. And before Chiron was in Taurus, it was in
Aries, and it's going to be
Aries.
back in Aries. So the archetype of Aries has also been like super present in the collective
Yeah,
this year and the last
yeah.
year. We have Neptune in Aries. Neptune is the archetype that speaks to our spirituality and
Mm.
kind of our dreams collectively. And then we also have Saturn in Aries. So this
My
shift,
natal Aries, my natal Saturn.
yeah, happy Saturn
Yeah.
return.
Thank you. Yeah, for all you babies listening, born between April 96 and February 99, you are having your Saturn return. So, usually around the ages of like 27 to 30, and it lasts for around 2 years or so. And this is like there's a lot of astrological kind of like, let's say, a little bit of propaganda around like the Saturn return. A lot of people are like, oh no, it's the worst time of your life. Some people say it's like the best time of your life. But as everything in astrology is neutral, it's all about how you choose to utilize it and how you choose to use that energy and like what energies have you been cultivating in your life leading up to these transits. And that's where you get to really be tested and get to know yourself at the deepest level possible. So I really feel like a lot of inspiration and positivity for my Saturn return because I've been doing such intense, deep, dark shadow work the last like 5 years or so. So I really felt like I was mentally prepared for my Saturn return. Whereas other people who may have been ignoring some of their patterns will maybe have a harder time during their Saturn return because Aries is like a take no prisoner energy. It's very intense. It's very fast. It's very like straight to the point. I mean, I have my Saturn in Aries in the third house. So for me, it's all around communication and how I express myself. And I've really had to work so fucking hard on my throat chakra and how I communicate and this reactive tendency, like I was saying, this reaction to just like vomit and like express really intensely without actually digesting what is going to come out, and that's gotten me into a lot of trouble in my past. So now I'm really learning how do I integrate this side of me and not be so reactive and learn to speak a little bit kinder with less force. But then also that's the same energy that inspired me to start a podcast in the first place. So it's like we always have to look at like the light and the shadow of these aspects and really see how's it working for us, because the shadow is really just always wanting to be integrated. It's not something that's coming out to get you or to haunt you. It's like it will haunt you if you run away from it and avoid it. But if you're willing to do the work and look at your shadow and face yourself in the mirror and have those hard conversations with yourself, it's always going to be supportive.
Yeah, there can be like Saturn and Aries. It's such an interesting energy because they're very opposite of each other.
Mm.
Because Aries Aries just wants to sprint, and Saturn is really slow, and basically they're constantly in a fight. And Saturn is trying to teach Aries to like really slow down, to learn patience, to kind of keep consistent, because there's a pattern with Saturn and Aries to like start 10 different projects and be really motivated and like initiate many things in life, relationships, opportunity, but then like not following through. So there's like patience also right now collectively for all of us is really like a big theme. How can we learn to birth something new without immediately wanting to be perfect and like being at the finish line, but actually learning to enjoy the slow journey of growing into something? I would love to know, what would you say, what pattern became very present in your life when your Saturn return started?
So that was only like now in February, but I think so much around perfectionism. I think, like you just said, like really around like I was feeling quite like frozen around like how do I take action? And it's again, it's like this, how do I take perfect action, but then realizing perfect action doesn't even exist. And like messy aligned action is better than trying to get things perfect, because my Virgo moon also just loves perfectionism and loves to like have everything ordered and organized. But really for me, it's like, how can I just learn to move forward with this alignment and trust in the unknown and trust in my own capabilities, rather than always needing something from the external to validate me before I move forward or before I make a big decision. Because I was at that time like in a really big freeze mode, you know, and like this creative freeze and like not knowing how to move forward in my business and my life and making money and like all the plans that I had in my head, but they were not like coming out into my daily life. And so that was really something that was really present, and like how to get out of this freeze, this functional freeze that I think a lot of creatives sometimes find themselves in when it comes to how do I execute these crazy big visions and ideas that I have. And learning to ask for help, but also knowing that that help can come from my own inner resourcing and my own inner wisdom and my own guides. And like sometimes again, just like getting out of this mental looping of overthinking and like tuning in with the heart, tuning in with the womb, tuning in with the body, and finding that wisdom at a deeper level.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I love hearing this. And like one sentence that came to my mind when you were talking was learning to trust your chaos.
Yes.
Because like the third house is, it's a place in our chart, which of course it is our mind, but it's also third house doesn't really have a filter. It's where we have like many ideas, and actually there's like such a overflow of impulses and ideas and directions. And I think there can be like, with your Virgo moon, a conflict between, okay, but what is the right action, like you said?
Yes. Yes.
But then like learning actually, and that is, I think, also the power of Saturn and Aries, like learning that you just taking the first step is all you have to do, because
Yeah.
all the answers you will find when you're moving and on the way.
Yes,
And
along the
actually,
journey.
exactly. And like the only like it's like as long as you keep on moving, this is when all
Yeah.
the answers come. And like the only mistake you can do is actually to stand still.
And be stagnant. Exactly. Yeah, I learned that in a really big way. Exactly. And we were coming out of winter and I was just like, I feel so stagnant and cold. And like my Saturn in Aries just wants to move forward, but I don't know how, you know? And it's like sometimes it's about saying fuck the how, just move in any direction. And like you said, the chaos will create the clarity along the way. And the chaos will be alchemized into creativity. And I think as creative people, chaos is the foundation for our creativity, right?
Yes.
It's like from the chaos of the underworld and the messiness and the darkness and our emotions, that's where inspiration comes from. That's where our creative ideas come from. That's where the vision to start a business comes from, because now you just came out of this crazy shadow work pain portal and now you know that this is how how you're meant to serve humanity at a greater level.
Absolutely. And what I often say to people who have a lot of Aries in the chart is that
Mm-hmm.
like just movement, any kind of like heavy physical movement where you start sweating, your heartbeat goes up is so
Mm-hmm.
important. So whenever like you feel stuck and like things don't move in your life, as long as you move your body, this is
Yeah.
often all it needs, even if like nothing external is moving, but like as long
Yeah.
as you do it with yourself, often the
Yeah.
outer will like, quickly translate that and also start moving again.
Exactly, exactly, because it's all about you mastering your own energy. And if the
Yeah.
external feels too heavy or dense, start working with your internal energy because that's ultimately where your fucking power comes from anyway. And I think people are so obsessed with the material realm that they forget that, like, actually, life is literally just a reflection of your internal state. Like, life is an inside job. And we think we need to sort this out and call this person and na, when actually, like, my mastery of manifestation and as a being is reclaiming my energy and like learning how to master my internal world, and then like magically the external world just starts to align and things fall into place without me actually having to do much,
Yeah,
you know?
100%. That's what I mean, this is not true for everything, but I think so often we think it has to be super complicated and we like get stuck
Yeah,
in our mind and think
yeah,
about all the
yeah,
things we
yeah.
have to do. When, like you said, it's like often just this like small moment of really witnessing what is
Mm,
happening inside of you and like staying with
mm,
it, which will
mm,
shift everything on the outside without you doing a new routine, learning a new
mm,
skill, starting a new course. Like it can
mm.
actually be so easy.
It's so much easier than we think. It's just like getting out the mind and into the body and back into an energetic awareness. Yeah, so beautiful. I love talking about this. Do you have time to go a little bit longer
I
than
do. Actually, I wanted also to say, you've been like speaking about, your internal sense of like perfectionism.
hmm
And we said before we want to speak about Lilith and the natal
hmm
chart. And
hmm
this actually really translates to your natal Lilith because it also
Let's talk
is,
about it. Yes.
yeah.
And I don't
Your
actually
natal
know
Lilith
so
isn't.
much about Lilith. So let's talk about her. I feel like she's quite a misunderstood aspect in the archetypal psychology as well as in astrology. She's not really spoken about so much. So let's go there.
Yeah, so Lilith in the birth chart is an asteroid. It's not a planet. And so many people don't work with her. You sometimes don't see her when you like pull up your chart somewhere online. I would say the interpretation in astrology is a little bit different to her myth. There are
hmm
many myths of Lilith, but in their essence, it always speaks to the first woman of Adam who was not willing to bend down to his will, who just stood in her own power, and who was more willing to be alone than to obey or to go against her own needs and desires.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
also why Lilith in the birth chart speaks to the part of us that we have learned is wrong and that we have kind of like pushed into our shadow, but that actually speaks to our power.
Yes, exactly. It's like that deep, dark power that's coming from within, from the alchemization of our shadow, right?
Absolutely. So it's also like in the charts of man as well as woman, it speaks to that like fierce, dark feminine force inside of us that if we actually learn to express it consciously instead of just like pushing it into the unconscious, it helps us to step into our power, to manifest our dreams, to really own our desires. And when we though keep it in the unconscious, it can like come up as like intense self-worth issues, always like power struggles in relationships, toxic relationships, a lot of issues with our own body and sense of self, and just finding a sense of purpose. And you have your Lilith in Virgo, and
In
it
the eighth
is
house.
in the eighth house. It depends on like I work with a different house system. So
Okay.
in my house system, you have it in the seventh. Your north node
Okay.
is in the eighth, but your Lilith is in the seventh. The fact that it is conjunct your north node basically means that like your like a huge part of your purpose here on Earth is to learn how to integrate that dark feminine energy. And I know your story just like a little bit, but I think it has been like super present in your life, this journey.
Yes. Oh my God. So fucking present. impermanence. And it's like that constant death and rebirth of the eighth house has been like such an intense theme throughout my whole life. And then having Pluto squaring my moon in the eighth house also adds like a whole nother fucking layer to
Yeah.
this dark feminine underworld, shadow worker, shadow realm energy throughout my whole life. And that's like first and foremost, I am a shadow worker. And that's why working with like women come with me to me working with deep pains and traumas that like most people would run away from, because those
Yeah.
stories are so deep and dark. And it's actually like I teach women how not to run away from their own pain, you know, and how to integrate that and how to find love for that, right? And to turn your pain, your power, your story from your pain into your power. And that is the alchemization of this energy at the deepest level.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it really fits to this archetype because like Lilith and Virgo, I would say with that placement conjunct your North Node in the eighth, you're like a priestess of darkness. Because
Yeah.
because like Virgo is the priestess archetype, and there's like such a core desire to like help and purify and like be a like servant to others. And therefore also the sense of perfectionism often naturally arises because it's
Mm,
like you can't help but see the shadows and the
mm,
unintegrated parts of yourself and of others.
mm,
And it's like such a powerful gift, but it also comes with the shadow of being too focused on getting to a goal. And again, you know, like
mm,
not really honoring the journey and
mm,
really kind of like getting into this like freeze moment because like you said earlier, the path has to be perfect. Every
yeah.
step has to make sense. And just like this escaping into the mental, it's like your true power lies just like in the feeling of your underworld and like moving
Mm.
with your emotions without like going up into the mind.
Exactly. That's why embodiment work changed my life, because it goes beyond the story and dives just into like what are we working with, the raw essence of this emotional expression and this trauma and whatever it is, you know? Yeah. Tell me
Amazing.
more about Lilith. Tell me more about Lilith. I want to know more about her. And then I was talking to you about like how people always stare at me and like are very like sexually obsessed with me. And let's talk a bit more about this.
You know, with it being conjunct your North Node, the North Node, especially later in life, and like once you actually really like cultivate Lilith in your chart, it becomes this magnetism energy around you. And you just like you can't help but really like transmit this energy.
Mm,
It's we can see the same when you look to children, like children naturally embody their South Node energy, and they're often
mm,
like more the South Node than their sun sign. And then like
mm.
throughout our lives, we like move more into our North Node. And I can imagine that actually, you know, like with Lilith being in your seventh house, like that these your relationships have probably often reflected certain power dynamics and
Mm,
been the main area for you to like really step into your power. I would be
mm,
like interested if you can relate to that, or have you
mm.
seen this in your life? Like, what would you say were the moments where you really were like, oh, fuck, I have to stop, you know, making myself smaller and like learn to really shine my power?
Yeah, I went through a really intense breakup, beginning of 2023. I'd be interested to know what was going on in the astrology then. But yeah, it was just like a relationship that I'd been in for 5 years, and it was going stagnant and stale, and it wasn't meeting my emotional or sexual needs. And I had been literally like kind of begging for my needs to be met for so long. And it just got to a point where I was like, fuck this shit. And I just have this pattern of like really blowing up my life and like burning down all the bridges that didn't make sense, and like just saying fuck these relationships that don't meet my needs, that not are like honoring me, that are not like, you know, showing me gratitude and taking me for granted and basically manipulating my energy. And so it's like I was never afraid to walk away from that, and it was always like so dramatic, and I always had to like burn a bridge, and I always had to explode everything and basically like start from scratch again, whether it was like friendships or relationships or romantic partners, you know, even like moving from Cape Town to Berlin is like also again like
Mm,
everything starts from scratch. And
yeah.
it's like through that death and rebirth process guess that's where I find my power, because every time I've held on to the past for too long, it's put me in positions of feeling weak and disempowered. But then every time, like, I'm just letting go of the past and like moving forward into the unknown, no matter how scary it is, no matter like how little money was in my bank account or whatever, I just had to move forward with such deep trust in myself and in my relationship to the universe and to God, that it's like, well, the forward has to be better than the past, so may as well just move forward, right?
Mm.
So definitely have seen that in relationships. I mean, in that long-term 5-year relationship, I wasn't really in my power. I was trying to get power from him, social
Mm.
standing from him, like all of the friends that we had were mainly his friends, kind of thing, So it was me leaking my power by relying on someone else's power.
Mhm.
And only after that breakup did I truly actually start to cultivate my own power. And that's where the pussy power activated. And then I got this tattoo on my wrist
Amazing.
and of a pussy. So, like, I feel like for me, everything kind of started escalating in 2023.
2023, when was that 2023?
Like around like April, let's say.
Let's see what was going on there.
April, May 2023. Like, yeah, I'd say around from like February, like, yeah, from about January, February to like May, June of 2023. That time period was like super intense.
What I'm seeing in the first moment is that Pluto, like in 2023, moved over your natal Neptune, while at the same time it was opposite your natal Mercury. So
Wow.
Pluto moving over your Neptune. I mean, this is like a generational transit. I also went
Mm,
through this. Many people went through this, but it is like this deepening of spirituality and finding
yeah.
actually like your true spirituality instead of these like false ideas that you maybe
Yeah.
followed before, that you heard from other people. It's like a period of finding like, oh no, like shadow work, pussy work, all of these things are actually like
Yes.
my spirituality.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And then, like, opposite your Mercury, it's like the shedding out of also how you gained your sense of self through, like, wait, it's also in your sixth house. Yeah, just like because Mercury in Leo also, like I always love to say, it's like the Mercury placement of storytellers, but it
Mm,
has the same shadow of like looking too much to the outside for
mm,
confirmation. And so
mm,
with Pluto opposite the placement, it really is like a period where you see, okay, where do I second guess myself? Where do I think
mm,
too much? Where I do not
mm,
speak my
mm,
truth? Because
mm,
my body and my mind naturally want me to be accepted and understood and admired. So with
mm.
Pluto opposite in 2023, it was that moment of like breaking out of that and seeing like, oh wait, actually, I don't have to be understood.
Exactly. I don't have to be understood by the outside in order to understand myself, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's like that moving the light, the shining that light from the outside back to the inside. And that's truly like where so much of the power that I have today was cultivated in that year through that massive death and rebirth that I went through after that breakup. Because after a breakup, it's like you don't even know who the fuck you are anymore sometimes. It's like you're so, especially when it's a long-term relationship, 5 years is no joke to be with someone. It's like your whole identity becomes
Yeah.
that person and becomes that relationship. And so after that, you literally are like, wait, who am I? Who am I? Like, what is going on? And so it's like, again, like that's starting from scratch. And it's like the snake skin that sheds is so raw and so tender. But from that rawness, that's when I really started to like realize, wait, the opposite of grief is gratitude. Wait, like I don't have to just feel grief for the loss. I can also feel gratitude for the growth and for the lessons and for like this forward momentum that's pointing me closer towards my soul's purpose, my destiny, my true self, right? By shedding all of that which I am not.
Mm.
So it's really fucking powerful. And I love that the astrology, obviously, I didn't even know that, like echoes that shit.
Yeah, it always does. One thing I was thinking about as you were speaking is that also, your journey and for like everyone else who has their South Node in Pisces, their North Node in Virgo, there's like a tendency in the South Node in Pisces to like live too much in their own energy body and like not fully
Mm-hmm.
in your physical body, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore also taking in too much energy of others. And it can be so easy to lean on the power of someone else because there's this like instinctual way of feeling safer in someone else's energy than like fully in your own. And so the North
Wow.
Node in Virgo, and like for you also with the conjunction of Lilith, it's like really about like going deep into the body and like learning to really listen to the body and how to
Yeah.
stay in the body also in high intensity moments, and to
Yeah.
not go back to like detaching or like numbing through certain substances that can be like also part of the South Node in Pisces, and like really basically falling in love with the like intelligence of the body and like the
Yes.
wisdom that it brings without anything external.
Yes, beautiful. I love that, and it's like so fucking true. Can you go back to June, July 2019? I would love to, because that's when I had like my big spiritual awakening, my womb awakening, my like get off the pill, like health crisis. I would love to know like what was going on around there. Like had an operation. Like that's when everything like actually exploded for me. So it's crazy because now in 2026 I'm closing out like the 7-year cycle since 2019, since like my first big spiritual awakening. I'd had like some mini awakenings before that, but that was when the awakening was so obvious that it was like too intense to ignore.
Yeah, so what I would say, like there's a lot is going on in 2019 in your chart, but I would say the most dominant is like the North Node in Cancer moving over your sun. And so it's this
Mm.
calling forward of like you standing in your light, you seeing who you truly are. Your sun is also in Placidius house system in the fifth house. So that it's also really centered around your creative expression and like seeing how, yeah, like just what a creational gift you carry, and then like you create your own reality. And then like you actually, yeah, honoring and channeling your arrows and your life force, because that's also connected to the fifth house, is
Mm.
what like helps you find happiness in your life. So this was going on while also Saturn was opposite your sun, and this is something I go through right now.
Oh wow.
Which is a bit the opposite. It's like Saturn like places burdens and hardship into your life for you to grow just more into who you are and
Mm-hmm.
to like discover. But yeah, also again, it has actually to do with power. Like, where do you make yourself smaller? Where do you hide yourself? Like, Saturn is this parent that comes into your life and like is a bit harsh and just like pushes you into new territory. It basically shows you where you were like stuck in something that didn't
Mm.
serve you anymore. And it is often a period that can be like very hard and painful, while the North Node invites you into something new. So it's like this tug of war that probably happened internally for you that year.
Mm-hmm.
But with the North Node over your sun, that's like a beautiful invitation. Also for anyone who has their like sun in Aquarius, you're gonna move through this in the next 1.5 years. This is always a beautiful invitation to adapt a new personality and to like just really show the world who you are in your full authenticity.
Yeah, it's such deep themes. I feel like like we spoke about at the beginning of this episode, is like we all came to Earth right now to be these warriors of love and light and truth and consciousness, and to say no more to the old patterns, no more to the old ways, no more to the old violence, like dogmatic paradigms, because and that's really what I also feel like is Aquarius, is this Aquarius energy, this North Node Aquarius, North Pluto and Aquarius energy is teaching us, is like we don't have to subscribe to the old dogmatic ways anymore, because it's like it's too Capricorn. It's
Yeah.
too Capricorn. Like we have to move to this higher mind that there's no rules. There's no fucking rules. It's not about
Yeah.
the rules anymore. It's
It's
about
not about the
value
rules.
systems, right? We're
Yeah.
grounded in our values of love, honesty, truth, and integrity, but the way that we express those values is going to look different from everyone else, you know? And like one person thinking I'm being disrespectful, someone else thinking I'm being exemplary and like praising and whatever, you know, it's all about the perspectives, like we spoke about again. It's like those ego mind attachments to how things have been. It's not always the way things will be going forward.
Yeah, no, the world is completely reshifting,
Yeah.
reforming, and there's no rules. I love this. Like we make up our own rules,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
also, yeah, it just happens through us coming together and like learning. I always say like learning to sit again at the table and like also like learn how
I love
to
that.
agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And no, we're not enemies, to not fall into polarity or like I'm bigger or better than someone else. And I'm just so excited to see how the world will look in like 10 years from now.
I'm also like so excited. Like I feel like after 2027, like you said, is like it's just gonna be that's also in human design. They also have a I mean, I think it's human design. They also have a big thing around the year 2027 and like the gene keys and like there's a lot of like big archetypal systems that speak about 2027 and then like building up to 2030. So it's just like such a crazy time to be alive. And before we end, I would love it if, yeah, if you have anything to share, any nuggets of wisdom, any advice, like from your own personal practice, just also, well, how can people not feel like a victim to astrology and actually just like take it into their hands and use it practically every day, right?
Yeah, so what I love to do, is like to dip my foot into astrology when like a transit starts, maybe like my curious gets the better of me and like I start reading about something that will happen in a few months, but then like to just read through it one time and then let it go again, to like not
Mm,
get fixated on it. And actually, I
mm,
think how astrology serves us the most is just in moments where we either look back and we reflect to like really see what's going on. It's like a good tool for integration, or also how to like really learn to when we are in a moment of in life and like everything is changing and we don't know what is going on and we're just like, oh my God, what, like I don't want this to be happening, I hate this. When we like really grip onto, yeah, when we're just really deep into resistance, this is also a moment where it's like astrology is just pure medicine for your soul, because it's like, hey, look, this is the bigger theme that is going on, and it helps our ego actually to surrender and relax. And I've had so many moments in my own life where I was resisting what's happening, and then I like read through my chart and I see the transits that are going on, and like my whole body just relaxes and it's like, oh no,
uh,
this is perfect. I'm
yeah,
right on track and there's nothing
yeah,
wrong. What I was resisting before, the resistance fell away and all of a sudden the issue wasn't there anymore. So it
yeah,
really helps you to also overcome certain obstacles. And I think the important key is to just not obsess about it and to like take
yeah.
it like everything, like in small doses, not looking too fixed on your chart and what's going on every day. And of course,
Mm,
it's just really honestly seeing like how do you use it? Like, do you feel better? Is it a tool? It can easily become a tool for control,
yeah.
but then it's also you're just living in your head and not in the moment, because often also, yeah, us just being fully present is all we need.
Amazing, love. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I've had so much fun. And I would love to invite you to just share about how people can find you, how people can work with you, how can they book a reading, when is the best time to get a reading, and yeah, what offerings and magical things do you have coming up in the world?
Yeah, so honestly, the best time to book a reading is right now.
Yeah.
Eclipse season is the moment where we also can like grow the most through an astrology reading. And the way you can find me is best over Instagram. There's my website. People can just like like book a reading on my website. And the other offer that I just like birthed into the world is my archetypal embodiment sessions, where I combine astrology with photography and myth. And we go on this like 3-month journey into seeing, okay, what are the parts of yourself that you've got that you shunned, pushed aside, that you never learned to feel safe in? What myth connects to these parts of yourself? What myths
Ooh, I
and
love
symbols are
that.
calling you? And then like it's a little bit the second part of this journey, just like a mythological reading, just leaning back and seeing, okay, what archetype comes into our life, what is calling us, and then to like really work with that, see how it expresses in our life, and in the last step to basically build a stage for this archetype and like really deeply go into the creational process together and like paint a backdrop, build some props, and like
Cool.
photograph someone in that archetype, because I've seen so many people just like transform in front of my lens when they're like allowing themselves to really show themselves in front of the camera,
Yeah.
and they're like
Yeah.
building the
Take up
capacity.
space. Yeah.
I'm just so excited to birth this and work more with people in building crazy worlds together and making crazy art, and
Cool,
in the same
baby.
time healing. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And bringing more light to those unconscious shadows and patterns and archetypes. And like honestly, like when if I didn't know I was a shadow priestess, like how would I find this part of myself? You know, it's like
Yeah.
we need others to help us shine parts of our lights on these parts of ourselves to accentuate them and give them full permission to take up space, even though like the world may not know what the fuck is a shadow priestess. Like it's
Mhm.
fine. I will fucking tell the world what the fuck
Yeah.
it is, you know, through my embodiment. So thank you for such a beautiful, potent offering. Also, photography is like, ugh, like if you have any insecurity issues, like photography is such a powerful way to transform that. So yeah, amazing. Big ups to you, babe. All Lola's links will be in the description below. So make sure to check her out, follow her on Instagram, and thank you so much for tuning in today. We both send you lots of love and many blessings for your eclipse portal integration. When is because eclipses are always in pairs. So when is the what's it called? The lunar eclipse.
Yeah, the lunar eclipse is on the 28th of August, and it's the last one in Pisces. So the last
Wow.
eclipse is often actually like a beautiful ending of the journey, and often this
Wow.
confirmation of what we've learned if you've
Yeah.
done the work.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the people receive this.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Ciao. And if you are listening or watching, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, send us a DM telling us which parts of this podcast you loved the most. And maybe we will even do a second part for you, invite Lola back. Thank you for being here. Lots of love. And we see you in the next one.